Guys, welcome back. This is RandoGEEK. All right, guys. So we have some updates regarding the situation with AT&T and the concerns over the lead fears. So AT&T has been coming out recently in the last couple of days, and they've been speaking to different news articles to basically clarify their, how they feel about the situation, where they stand based on these accusations. So they don't seem very concerned. They're not worried. As far as I can see here, they don't have any immediate plans to go out and start cleaning up. They don't seem like there's anything that they don't feel guilty about anything here. So we're going to talk about this article that I found from Light Reading. I'll link it for you down below in the description. But, I guess part of the reason why they're not too worried is even if they find that these cables are of concern and that they might be hazardous, it doesn't look like they'll be liable to clean this up for quite some time. A lot of testing has to still be done. It's going to be a big project. It's something that we'll probably be hearing about ongoing for quite some time. So let's jump into this article. So according to the article, AT&T said that the lead-covered cables represents less than 10% of its total copper network footprint, which spans around 2 million miles of cable. And according to one of the financial analyst firms covering the company, AT&T might ultimately spend just $84 million per year cleaning up those potentially hazardous cables. These figures are noteworthy considering investors panicked this week over the potential costs posed by lead-covered cables. AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen Technologies, as well as Frontier Communications, collectively lost around $33 billion in market value as a result, according to the financial analysts with KeyBank Capital Markets, with AT&T down $15.4 billion and Verizon down $15.3 billion, experiencing the majority of that slide. The situation stems from a series of detailed, lengthy articles by the Wall Street Journal on aging telecommunication cables that may contain hazardous amounts of lead. The publication's expose acted like a sledgehammer on shares of AT&T, Verizon, and other telcos amid reports of the cleanup costs totaling what they said would be around $60 billion. All right, so AT&T has responded late Tuesday, saying that first comprehensive response to the reports. In a court filing, the company said that it would halt plans to remove lead-covered cables in Lake Tahoe, California, in order to conduct more testing. The company had agreed to do so as part of a 2021 lawsuit settlement in which the company didn't admit any wrongdoing but did agree to remove the cables at a cost of up to $1.5 million. In its new filing, AT&T said that although the journal seeks to raise the specter of a broad public health issue, lead-clad telecom cables make up a small part of AT&T's network. Based on its records, AT&T estimates that the lead-clad cables represent less than 10% of its copper footprint of roughly 2 million sheath of miles of cable, the overwhelming majority of which remains in active service. More than two-thirds of its lead-clad cabling is either buried or in conduit, followed by aerial cable, and with a very small portion running underwater. There are varying costs of installation, maintenance, and removal by cable type: aerial, buried in conduit, underwater. All right, so let's see here. AT&T also on Tuesday reached out to some investment firms to quell fears over the issue. AT&T IR Investor Relations hosted an impromptu investor call laying out the framework on the toxic lead cable risk. According to financial analyst at TD Cowen, the framework suggests minimal health risk, minimal cable exposure, minimal financial risk. They said that they estimate $246 million per year and remedied over many years, if any risk at all. Counting the loss, AT&T is telling us that the total exposure is 200,000 route miles or less. Additionally, they are advocating that 2 out of 3 of these lines are buried or in conduit. The firm wrote in a lengthy note on the topic Wednesday. The scientific conclusion for addressing lead cable is to encapsulate any parts that might contact humans and otherwise leave it in place. This would apply to 2 out of 3 figure AT&T gave. In our view, we believe the implication that for AT&T's data is that the route miles that should be addressed most immediately is about 3.3% or less. All right, so according to Raymond James analysts, they estimate that it can cost between $34,000 and $68,750 per mile of cable to clean up the lead cover cables that are underwater. But the average cost of cleanup across all of AT&T's network is more like $4,000 to $6,000 per mile. Thus, they estimate the total removal cost of between $264 million to $1.2 billion. So they say that the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but if it is determined that it all must be removed, and if the process follows those of the EPA's of 2021 lead copper rule, at 7% removal year, the risk to AT&T is something in the neighborhood of $84 million per year, they concluded. Other operators, too, are working to address the topic. For example, TDS Telecom earlier this week said it conducted an assessment of its communications network across the country and located approximately 10 miles of lead-covered cables. And on Tuesday, Shenandoah Telecommunications Company said it conducted an assessment of its communications network and confirmed that no lead-covered cables are deployed in the network. In general, financial analysts are now arguing that initial fears over lead-covered cabling was overblown, and that it's likely that AT&T, other telecom carriers, will face any substantial costs related to the issue. Indeed, shares in AT&T and other telecom providers continue to rise and trading on Wednesday. So there you have it. AT&T not that concerned. So for those of you that were worried about AT&T, maybe, thinking that this is going to drown them, that the stock is going to plummet, that they might even wind up having to file for bankruptcy if the costs are just too much. We know the financial problems that AT&T has been having. They're not worried. It doesn't seem as bad as it originally was presented to us. Obviously, this is still a developing story. We'll continue to hear more updates. We'll be bringing you those updates as we are notified of them. So definitely stick with this channel to get all your latest wireless updates. As soon as we're notified, we notify you. That's how we do it. So also, many of you may argue that this is market manipulation. Okay, we can go on about that, and you're not wrong. We know that's what's been going on with many of these companies and the stock market in general. It's definitely being manipulated to their advantage. Us as investors are always going to be seeing one side of what's really happening. Okay, so I mean, look at how much these stocks dived. Okay, if you bet against the grain, okay, you've made millions. Okay, they've made millions, if not billions, on betting against AT&T and Verizon. Okay, so the next day went right back up, right? So this is a dirty game that the stock market plays, but it doesn't look like AT&T is that worried. We'll find out more as time goes on. Like I said, developing story. Things can change. We'll be there to let you know. All right, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I want to thank you for stopping by and watching. Much appreciated. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.